this is Mr. G. Welcome to Mr. G's house. Sometimes I call it Mr. G's house. Sometimes it's Mr. G's theory corner. However I'm feeling at the moment. Today, welcome to my house. We're going to discuss, over a series of videos coming up, how to harmonize, do basic 2 and 3 and maybe 4-part harmonies for our bluegrass groups. Actually, for any group. And I'm going to show you how I think about it, how I approach it, and we'll go from there. Today is an introductory thing. It looks like a pretty complicated thing I got up here on the screen, doesn't it? It's not really. I'll explain it to you. There is a thing called a major scale. Maybe you've heard of it. There are 7 notes in the major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. The first way I did that for you was called solfege. Not going to do it, don't worry. Even though Julie Andrews won my heart as a teenager when I heard her sing about it. Do, a deer, a female deer. Re, the kind of gun I used. Me, I'm the guy that shot the deer. I don't think that's how she sang it. Well, regardless, we're not going to use it. I still love Julie Andrews. But we're going to think in terms of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're going to hear a lot about numbers. I'm going to be assigning numbers to chords, to intervals, and it all relates. We've all heard of the natural numbering system. Guess where they get it from? This kind of stuff that I'm about to show you. We are going to discuss the key of C. It's easiest because there's no sharps and there's no flats involved. All right? Now, we have the C major scale. You see it written up here. I've written it up as, let me get this volume down here. There we go. You hear the C chordal scale. You hear the C major scale. In fact, let me just play the C major scale for you so you get a root, so you get a basis. Here we go. All right, that's a C major scale. Here's a C chordal scale. Again, the 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7 chord, 1 chord. Again, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major. Now, 7 notes in the major scale. That means there are 7 ways to write that scale. I can go from C to C, like we just heard. E, F, G, A, B, C. We can go from D to D in the key of C. Here we go. There we are. This is mode 2. We can go from E to E in the key of C. This is mode 3, based on the 3rd note of the C major scale. We have mode 4, going from F to F in the C major scale. We have mode 5, based on the 5th note of the C major scale, or a G. We have mode 6, which is based on the 6th note of the C major scale, or an A. These are all versions and variations of the C major scale. And the last one would be the 7th mode based on a B from the C major scale. So those are all the notes from the C major scale, just arranged in different consecutive order. We go from 1 up to 1, 2 up to 2, C to C, D to D, E to E, F to F, etc. Now, each one of these scales, or modes, if you will, the first, third, and the fifth note of that scale form a chord. The C major, here's your first note. Here's your third note. Here's your fifth note. And here's what it sounds like. The second mode, which starts on a D. The first note, third note, fifth note, and the chord. The third mode, an E. Here's your first note, third, fifth, an E minor chord. The fourth mode, or the fourth note of the scale, F, first note, third, fifth, forms an F major chord. The fifth mode of C is a G mode. So here we go. Here's your first note, root, third, fifth, or the sixth mode of the C major scale is an A minor chord, and this first note, third note, fifth note, or A minor. The seventh mode of the C major scale begins on a B. The first note is a B, third note is a D, fifth note is an F. Forms a B diminished chord. So those are the 7 chords of the C major scale. Again, for 1 chord, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major. That's going to be the foundation of what we're going to be doing, working with our harmony. Now, I laid it out this way. This is the way I look at it. This is not exactly the way Ben and his sisters presented it at our camp this last weekend. Their way is totally correct. I envy people who can think like that and throw all those numbers around. I can't think that way. Being dyslexic, this stretches me sometimes. But this is my way of looking at it. I'm always looking to make something as simple as possible. There are 7 notes in the major scale. Each one of those notes forms the root of a chord. C becomes a C major chord. D becomes D minor. E becomes E minor. F becomes F major. G becomes G major. A becomes A minor. B becomes B diminished. Each one of those chords is associated with an arrangement of notes within that C major scale. They're called modes. C major is based on the first note of the C major scale, so that mode goes from C to C, mode number 1. Now, D minor is based on the second note of the D major scale, so going from D to D we call mode 2. And it goes all the way through B. Now, there are special names for these modes, which I don't use anymore, because outside of my music degree, I've hardly heard anybody refer to them by these names. They always talk about the first mode, second mode, third mode. Everything revolves around numbers in my world. But just in case you want to know what those names are, the 7 modes are mode 1, Ionian, mode 2, Dorian, mode 3, Phrygian, mode 4, Lydian, mode 5, Mixolydian, mode 6, Aeolian, mode 7, Locrian. You can remember those names if you remember this acronym. I dig pot, leave me alone loser. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. Now, I'm never going to mention those names again because honestly, I want to keep everything centered around numbers because that's how we communicate as musicians. You never hear anybody sitting in a jam session yelling out, all right, we're going to use Aeolian mode. No, they're going to do something like, I'm going to use A minor scale. Or they might say, I'm going to do mode 6. Or they just might say A minor in the key of C. And that tells you all you need to know. So you don't really need to know all those fancy names, unless, of course, you want to. So this is the foundation of what we're going to be doing when we start talking about harmonizing in the key of C. All right, this is Mr. G. I'm out of here. Till next time, have a glorious day. Bye-bye.